This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998 and Ash. Hey everyone, welcome to the first of what I am calling the Guardian Goku movie specials. In essence, this is an alternate take on my original premise of what if Goku was Guardian of Earth, except this time, it's centered around the Dragon Ball Z movies, starting with Dead Zone and progressing on in order. As it is a separate retelling, you do not need to have seen any of the series up until this point, but if you haven't, I highly recommend checking it out, as it has 2 seasons and a GT special, both of which I'm really proud of. Also, while I have you, I'd like to request that you consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, as currently more than 75% of viewers aren't subscribed, and it's a great way to ensure you never miss out on an upload. But with that said, let's get on with the story. We begin this telling of a familiar tale at an equally familiar starting point, the end of the battle between Piccolo Jr. and Son Goku, the latter of whom now reigns victorious while the former lies in defeat. Recognizing a chance to correct his worst mistake, Kami moves to end Piccolo's life, even if it means ending his own. And while Goku protests, it is already too late, with the old Namekian eviscerating his evil half, and in doing so taking his own first steps down the path to death. Knowing his time is short, Kami looks to Goku, a contented smile on his face as he's finally free of regret. Then with his dying breath, he implores the young hero to look after the Earth in his stead, and lays a hand on the man's spiky head, formally transferring the guardianship of Earth to him before dying in peace. Naturally, everyone is saddened by the passing of Kami, none more so than Goku himself, as the Namekian sage had been a dear friend and mentor, and though he does not say it, he is just as disappointed at the loss of Piccolo, who despite his demonic heritage had the makings of an honorable fighter. Handing him a senzu bean, Yajirobe then asks what Goku plans to do now, with the Saiyan replying that he doesn't have much of a choice. Though he didn't want to become Earth's guardian, he will honor Kami's last wish and take up the position. He then calls down Nimbus, preparing to head back up to the lookout, though here he is not alone, as his bride-to-be Chi-Chi insists on coming with him, even if this is not the life she had envisioned for them, with us seeing the pair take off for Kami's lookout, or to be more accurate, Goku's lookout. As in the story we know, Goku and Chi-Chi are quick to settle down here and have their son Gohan, with the spiky head saying getting used to the new responsibilities and powers he's been entrusted with. As is his nature, he continues to train, often sparring with Chi-Chi, Mr. Popo, and on some rare occasions his friends like Tien, Yamcha, and Krillin, though as this is an era of peace, with all indications being that it will be so forevermore, not to mention his lack of a true rival, his growth, while better than in canon, is admittedly at somewhat of a leisurely pace. However, no peace can last forever, with this becoming clear a few years into Goku's tenure as Guardian when a new evil emerges, though this is not an invader from the stars, but instead something more homegrown. The demonic Garlic Jr., who for many years has stewed in his resentment of both Kami and the Guardian who came before him, as in his eyes, they conspired against his father Garlic to deny him the position of Guardian which was rightfully his, having instead sealed him for centuries in a dark crystal. Only through Garlic's power had a version of him managed to escape, that being Garlic Jr., his reincarnation and son, who now at last is ready to seek retribution for his father and right a long overdue wrong by planting himself on the throne of God. While this plan had initially come with the caveat of making himself immortal so he could rule forever, following the Dragon Balls going inert and news of Kami dying had reached him, Garlic Jr. had been forced to make some adjustments, especially as the old slug's successor had been Son Goku, the one who had defeated the son of an obviously inferior Demon King. In order to get around this, Garlic Jr. and his 3 retainers Sancho, Nikki, and Ginger had honed their power for the last few years, and while Son Goku's own power had been hidden from them by the magic of the lookout ever since his ascension, they are confident that by now they must be the strongest creatures on Earth. Putting this to the test, Garlic Jr. dispatches his loyal trio to cause terror in a nearby human settlement, trusting that as Earth's guardian, Son Goku will see and be forced to respond. As he had hoped, this does draw Goku's attention, with him kai-kaiing onto the scene, having made the decision that while Kami may have favoured non-intervention, that is not the sort of guardian he wishes to be. Whipping out his power pole, the Saiyan is quick to dispatch the trio of minions, while from the shadows, Garlic Jr. steps forth to show himself, simpering that this is the new Kami. Not bad, but no match for his power, so he will give him one chance, relinquish the title of guardian to him, or perish. Gritting his teeth, Goku growls that he'll never hand over the role to someone so evil, with this causing a nasty little sneer across the Makian's lips, as he states that if Son Goku will not do so willingly, then perhaps some inducement is in order. At once, the 3 minions of Garlic Jr. are upon Goku, though this time they are much more deadly, having uttered their release phrases, and thus gained access to their full and unrestricted power. Sancho, as the most physical of the trio, is the first to strike Goku, ramming headlong into him while his compatriots come at the Saiyan from either side, having manifested blades which they swing in high lethal arcs, forcing Goku to leap 10 feet up to narrowly avoid being sliced to ribbons. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, this reprieve is brief at best, as following him up, the three demons then begin pressuring Goku from multiple sides, with this proving to be a challenge, as while he is still stronger than them individually, their excellent coordination while fighting together, not to mention the fact that they force him to split his attention, means they are a rather deadly group of foes. In an attempt to level the playing field, Goku takes off, forcing the villains to follow him into an alley, with this serving as a natural choke point where he can face them one at a time, a clever strategy save for one problem, that these three don't care about fighting fair, as with no concern for the danger this could pose to the inhabitants, Sancho and Ginger each barrel through the building walls on either side of the alley, before bursting out beside the Guardian to pin him or Nikki knees him in the stomach. Thankfully, this also brings the demon close enough for Goku to headbutt, sending him staggering, or with a pair of back fists behind him, he also catches Ginger and Sancho. Using this moment of confusion, Goku once more makes a break for it, though this time his intent is to get as far away from civilians as possible so he can fight all out. Unfortunately, this is not something Garlic Jr.'s minions desire, as when Goku attempts to leap up and call Nimbus, he feels three sets of hands lock around his ankle before he is thrown back into the street. Landing hard, the Saiyan hero forces himself back to his feet, really wishing he had Tien's multiform technique right now, though perhaps there is a way he can gain its benefits without needing the ability itself, and so with a grin forming on his face, Goku begins moving side to side at high speeds. As he had hoped, this creates a pair of after images on either side of him, with this causing Garlic's goons a moment of confusion as they try and fail to sense out which is the real Goku. Figuring that if they each take one they'll be guaranteed success, the trio then each lunge at a Goku, and while Sancho and Nikki pass through theirs, Ginger strikes gold, clashing forearm against forearm with the genuine article. However, this is not the blessing it appears, as with momentum having carried the other two fiends a distance away, Ginger is all alone, meaning Goku can direct his full power at him, driving a fist into his stomach that sends him flying with explosive force, taking him out. Rather rattled by the defeat of their comrade, Nikki and Sancho freeze for just a moment, but this is all it takes for Goku to demolish them, catching Nikki with a flying kick and then blowing Sancho away with a blast. Now all that is left is to deal with their master, though as Goku looks back to where he last saw Garlic Jr., he finds the little gremlin gone. In fact, he cannot sense his energy anywhere in town, and remembering what the usurper had said his true objective was, the Saiyan is struck with a sudden sense of terror as he takes off for home. Up on the lookout, Garlic Jr. has arrived, having used his minions as little more than a diversion. At the sound of him touching down, both Chi-Chi and Gohan rush outside expecting to see their husband and father, though upon spotting the interloper, Chi-Chi orders Gohan to stay behind her. Smirking devilishly, Garlic Jr. introduces himself, laying a claim to the title of Earth's rightful guardian, and instructing the woman and child to stand aside if they care about their lives, as he has a date with destiny. Snarl twisting her lips at the implied threat towards her son, Chi-Chi growls that the only Guardian is her Goku, with this serving as her battle cry, as she flies at the Machian and attempts to take his head with a roundhouse kick. However, as with Goku, this passes through an afterimage, with the true Garlic having stepped back as he chuckles that was brave. And stupid. He then demonstrates his own power, needing only to raise a hand and expel a Ki to drop Chi-Chi where she stands, though as the woman falls, Gohan cries out for her, his tone going from worry to rage with each utterance of her name. As this happens, Garlic Jr. feels something stir within the boy, a power that dwarfs even his own, with this giving him a most evil idea. Once he has seized his birthright, he will train the boy as his disciple, since it will be a delightful irony to have the son of the false guardian become a weapon of the true one, and in time even be used to kill his own father. However, such ambitions will have to wait, as before the Machian can take a single step, something hard drives itself into his stomach, causing him to spit up, with the cause being none other than Gohan's head, having launched himself forward with a tearful roar to leave his mum alone. Staggering backwards, Garlic snarls that he doesn't have time for this, and so quickly transforms into his giant form, before swinging a backhand at the brat that will put him in his place. That is until he feels a hand close around his wrist, and as he looks up from the child, he finds Son Goku having materialized in front of him, as he firmly tells the Machian monstrosity, hands off. This order is then followed by a knee to the stomach right where the brat had struck, with this being enough to send Garlic Jr. skidding across the lookout's courtyard. Using this reprieve to the fullest, Goku then bends down to pat Gohan's head, telling him that he did great, but now Daddy will handle things, so he needs him to get his mother inside and give her one of the senzu beans Koran had sent up to them. Okay? Nodding his understanding, and more importantly his faith in his father, Gohan then departs with the still unconscious Chi-Chi, meaning now the stage is set for Goku to face Garlic Jr. for the sake of the Earth and its guardianship. Taking off at a sprint, Goku starts by attempting the meteor combination he prepared to face Piccolo, though it seems the Machian is stronger than the Namekian was, as now that he is expecting the hit he is able to brace himself, using his considerable bulk to absorb the blow, before driving a headbutt into the top of the Saiyan's skull that makes him scream. Following up on this, Garlic Jr. wastes no time in wrapping his hand around Goku's throat and lifting him off his feet, with it seeming there is nothing the hero can do to save himself. Nothing except the Junkian scissor attack, as by striking out with his left hand, he is able to drive 2 of his fingers into the demon's eyes, forcing him to drop him and let out a pained squeal. Now back in the driver's seat, Goku performs a hasty leg sweep, but this does not go quite as planned. Since in a reflective attempt to stay aloft, Garlic Jr. frantically reaches out and grabs hold of a hunk of the warrior's hair, with this allowing him to slam Goku face first into the pavers of the courtyard for roughly even damage. Rolling onto his side, Goku then attempts a flurry of blows aimed right at Garlic's face, and while these do land, all it takes is a knee from the Machian to send him tumbling end over end. However, this is not the worst of it, as using that speed of his once again, Garlic vanishes and reappears above the rolling Goku, only to halt his movement with a knee drop to the spine that sees the Guardian flat on his stomach, panting for breath. Evidently enjoying the sight of this, Garlic Jr. then rises to his feet and begins stomping down on Goku, all the while sneering that he's pathetic, some Guardian he turned out to be when he cannot even protect himself. Finally, when the thrill of torture is gone, Garlic Jr. begins manifesting a belly blast, with the ring of magenta ki forming in front of his torso as he aims it down at Goku. However, before he can fire, a voice cries out, that of Gohan, as he begs his dad to get back up. Turning in the direction of the scream, both fighters see the boy standing in the entrance of the Lookout's temple, something clasped in his stubby hand. And as Goku urgently begs his son to go back inside where it's safe, he throws it, revealing the contents of his hand to be a single senzu bean. Having paid the bean no mind, Garlic Jr. instead leers over at Gohan, contemplating if it's worth sacrificing his future disciple to see the look on Son Goku's face when he obliterates his son in front of his eyes. However, this is not a question he will ever get a chance to answer, as before he can decide who to fire his blast at, a fist shoots up to clock him in the jaw. Rising back to his feet now, Goku repeats his prior instruction to leave his son alone, an order which is once again accompanied by a blow, this time carrying far more power, as while Goku and the unleashed Garlic Jr. were on par before, this was when Goku was worn out from another fight. Now, he is fully rejuvenated, and there is no question that the Saiyan's strength is superior. Recognizing this, Garlic Jr. reluctantly brings out his ace in the hole, opening the dead zone, as while he'd prefer to defeat the new Kami, he'll settle for sealing him away as the old Kami sealed his father. Then he will crush the rest of Goku's little family, and assume the mantle of God for himself, while bringing this world to heel. Planting his feet among the smashed paving stones in an attempt to anchor himself so he's not pulled into the dead zone, Goku roars that he will not let Garlic Jr. harm his world, a claim that merely makes the demon smirk, though he finds the next word the hero says far less amusing. At once, the orb of light the Saiyan had been charging in his hands transforms into a column of pure power that the Machian madman cannot compete with. Even his bulk is not enough to save him from this beam, and as he is blown off his feet and into the gravitational pull of the dead zone, he lets out a scream of rage and terror, refusing to be locked away as his father was. However, just before he is pulled into the event horizon, Garlic Jr. feels something catch on his ankle, and as he stares in disbelief, he sees that his savior is none other than Goku. A moment later, the Lookout, the dead zone, and everything but the Saiyan warrior are gone, as using his guardian powers, Goku teleports them both away, bringing them instead to a small peaceful field. After the intensity of that Kamehameha, Garlic Jr. cannot even stand, and so crashing on his back in the grass, demands to know why his enemy saved him. Rubbing the back of his head and giggling, Goku admits that it's kinda complicated. Partially he did it to sorta make up for the fact that he couldn't save Piccolo, since he sees a lot of similarities between them, and partially because that's the best fight he's had in years, so he wants Garlic Jr. to train some more and come challenge him again sometime. Still in a state of utter bewilderment, the Machian asks if he's really going to let him go free just like that, though looking surprisingly carefree considering what he just went through, the Guardian nods, replying that he'll be keeping an eye on him from time to time, so if Garlic tries anything funny he'll just come down and stop him again, though for the time being, he's got to get back to his family, since Chi-Chi and Gohan are probably worried sick. Then with that another word, the hero is gone, travelling at godly speed back to the Lookout, where thankfully the dead zone portal has faded, though there is still plenty of work to do in order to get the place back to the state it was before. Nonetheless, Goku isn't worried, as after checking that Gohan's alright, he scoops the boy up in his arms and carries him inside, while with his other arm he wraps it around his wife, smiling that even if this isn't how he thought his life would go, he's honestly got it pretty good. Meanwhile, down on the planet's surface, Garlic Jr. stews once again, as while he is glad not to be a prisoner of the dead zone, this does not mean he has given up his ambition to claim what is his by right, and to kill that fool Goku for daring to keep it from him. Thankfully, even with his minions gone, he will not have to enact this plan alone, as in the dark of the night he is approached by an elderly human scientist named Cochin, who reveals that if Garlic is willing to help him with a matter of great importance to him and his master, then he in turn will give the Machian the power to defeat Goku and become the world's strongest. And that's where we'll leave things. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.